Welcome to this edition of the Unathletic, everyone. I am your host, Ben Friedel, and alongside me, as always, Nate Wiggins. What's going on, man?
I'm good. I had a good weekend. I watched El Clasico yesterday. Did you happen to catch El Clasico?
I did not catch it because...
It was a great match.
Yeah.
It was a great match. Some pretty poor refereeing decisions, but it was overall just a great match.
Yeah, I'm sure it was if I watched it, and I heard that there were some questionable refereeing decisions as well, and it's always a shame to look back on a match and remember the refereeing decisions over the actual match itself, because it is El Clasico, and those are matches that we should, we're honored to be able to experience those kinds of matches anyway. So I think before we get, dive in too much into soccer, I think we should just reaffirm kind of what our show is about. So here on the Unathletic, we pride ourselves in talking about the sports that we want to talk about. So virtually every week we talk about soccer because both of us love soccer. We love watching European football, as they call it out there. And we're going to be talking some NBA basketball, some playoff basketball, and not engaging in the vicious cycle of the NFL draft this episode. I'm kind of tired of hearing about Baker Mayfield. Like, they're not even playing any games right now, and there's the NBA playoffs going on. Crying out loud, am I right? So let's dive in. Let's do it. So a lot of things happening in soccer. We haven't had a show in 2 weeks, actually. So a lot of stuff to catch ourselves back up on. And we just mentioned El Clasico. It was a 2-2 game. Barcelona have already clinched the La Liga title, and Real Madrid looked pretty solidly in Champions League. So it wasn't that match didn't mean anything. It was just that kind of the two teams, their fates have already been sealed, if you will.
Yeah. It was something that, given that it's El Clasico and it's a huge rivalry, there's that genuine hatred between the players, and we saw that on the pitch, and Real Madrid was trying to end Barcelona's unbeaten run. It still felt like an El Clasico, but compared to last year or years past, there wasn't as much on the line. But, speaking of Real Madrid, we talk about Barcelona going unbeaten, but Real Madrid, they're going to their third consecutive Champions League final. That in itself is pretty impressive. And it's really interesting to me how, when you look at these two teams, Barcelona is going to go unbeaten in La Liga. Real Madrid is going to their third consecutive Champions League final.
It's interesting with these two teams. They're both kind of honestly mediocre compared to how well these two teams have been in the past. I think that this Real Madrid team is certainly not as good as they haven't been playing as well as they were playing these last couple of years. I know this Barcelona team, even though they're unbeaten, is not as good as some of those other Barcelona teams that were there under Pep. Yet it's just so funny how they've kind of made things look pretty easy, in La Liga for Barcelona and in the Champions League for Real Madrid.
I know, and I think Barcelona, they're done playing for stuff. Like, they won La Liga, and that's all they can win, if I'm not mistaken.
And they already won the Copa del Rey, too.
Yeah, so their season is virtually over. They're just sort of riding the wave till the end of the season.
I got a question for you. What would you rather win, the Champions League or win La Liga and the Copa del Rey?
Is this question stemming from, I heard someone, I cannot remember who, commenting that La Liga is harder to win than Champions League.
That was Zinedine Zidane who said that.
Yeah.
But then Sergio Ramos said that he would rather win the Champions League than La Liga.
I feel like I would want to win the Champions League. I mean,
really?
Honestly, because it's the Champions League.
Like,
do I need much more reason than that? I think it's just a reputation-wise, a bigger competition, especially since it encompasses the best teams from all over the country. Because I think, to answer your question, there's distinct styles of play in each country, and Champions League combines all of those styles of play. And so, if you're just good at winning La Liga, maybe you're good at just beating that one style of play. I mean, albeit there's, variations of that, but, the people say that the Premier League has a distinct pace to it. MLS even has a distinct pace to it. We saw Zlatan commenting on that over the weekend. So all these leagues are definitely, I think, distinct in their own way, and I think if you're able to conquer all the different stylistic sort of variants within the different types of play, I think that winning Champions League, I think, is the ultimate testament to how good your team could be.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say that, with the Champions League, and we kind of see this with Real Madrid. We've talked about this before. They have not played extremely well, and yet they find themselves in the Champions League final. It's almost, to me, like they've kind of stumbled their way into the Champions League final. But, you're not going to stumble your way into a league title. In the league, you have to be the best team for 38 games or 34 games or however long the league is. But for the Champions League, you can just be the better team over those 2 legs and find your way through. You don't even have to be the better team over 2 legs like we saw between Juventus and Tottenham. So I think that I totally get where Zinedine Zidane is coming at, where I think it is tougher to win your league than it is to win the Champions League, because although you may be facing higher quality opposition in the Champions League, that it's not something that you're doing week in and week out. You don't have to maintain that same consistency. You can almost, I don't want to say turn it on and off, but it's something that you can get up for a Champions League match differently than you could, say, get up week to week for your matches in your league. Do you get kind of where I'm
No,
where I'm
I
at?
get what you're saying. So
Yeah.
what that makes me think of is Leicester City.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So in your estimation, what Leicester City did is more impressive than if they were to go on a run and win the Champions League.
I think so. Yeah, because for the Champions League, it's only you only got to be the better team for 6 or 8 matches versus, in the Premier League, like, they were the best team for 38 matches. And I mean, we even saw that the following season where they were struggling in the league, but they were advancing in the Champions League. And I think it shows that just that week-to-week grind in the league is different than the once or twice a month grind in the Champions League.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a testament to, I think those are some good points, Nate. And regardless, the Champions League still exists.
I'm not saying get rid of the Champions League.
It's still
I'm not saying get rid
happening.
of the Champions League.
And we had some matches going on. We had Real Madrid taking on Bayern Munich, and under your estimation, they kind of stumbled to that victory, if you will. And Real Madrid advanced 4-3 on aggregate. They almost blew it. Bayern Munich sort of were coming back strong. And Real Madrid advancing to their 3rd consecutive Champions League final, and albeit may not have been the cleanest road to get there, but they did beat teams like PSG, Juventus, and now Bayern Munich in order to get to the final. And we were talking about this. I feel like if they played Barcelona in the final and they beat Barcelona, that probably would have been the most impressive string of wins in order to win any kind of trophy in ever, honestly.
Absolutely.
Like going through all those kinds of teams. But
I mean, they literally beat the French champions, the Italian champions, and the German champions to get to the Champions League final. And it's like I was saying, they're doing this without even playing extremely well. I mean, and when I say stumbled in, I'm not saying that they don't deserve to be there, because they absolutely deserve to be there. But you could not deny that they have gotten some lucky breaks. I mean, you had the last-second penalty against Juventus. You had Steven Ulreich making the worst goalkeeping mistake I have ever seen at that level of play. But the difference between great teams and good teams is that great teams take advantage of those opportunities when they are given to them. Good teams do not. That is why Real Madrid is in the Champions League final, and honestly why Bayern Munich isn't, because Bayern Munich had plenty of opportunities over the 2 legs to score, to do what they needed to do to advance, and they didn't. Real Madrid did, and that's what separates Real Madrid, a great team, from Bayern Munich, who's only a good team.
yeah, so speaking of Bayern Munich, they did well to get this far. I think definitely at the start of the season, if you were to tell them that they would go out in the semis of the Champions League, they would not be satisfied. They're a team that wants to win this competition every single year. And, as you mentioned, they won the Bundesliga. So, Nate, in your estimation, how did Bayern Munich's season go?
I think that this season is a failure, honestly. I think that for Bayern Munich, your goal is to win the Champions League. The Bundesliga, it's an expectation. It's not a goal. It's something that, hey, we're supposed to win the Bundesliga. That's something that it's just, okay, it's kind of something that we're just supposed to do, versus with Bayern Munich, their goal is to win the Champions League. And when they don't win the Champions League, I think that you can say that season is a failure, and it's something that they haven't done since 2013. It's they have lost, I think, 4 consecutive years to Spanish opposition, and I think it shows the gap between the sides like Barcelona and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. And people can make the argument, well, is this because is Bayern's failures on the European stage, does it have something to do with the fact that they're just running through the competition in the Bundesliga? I'm not here to have that conversation, but what I will say is that Bayern Munich, I would consider their season a failure.
So under your estimation, this season being a failure is contingent upon them not winning the Champions League, right?
I think so.
We were just having the conversation on whether winning the league versus winning the Champions League is more important, and they clearly won the league.
I think that what I'm trying to say is that I think that it's more of a case by case basis. I don't think that you can sum it up, because I mean if you've got a side that's built to win the Champions League and has won their league 6 consecutive years in a row, your goal should be the Champions League, and that should be your main focus, right? I think that's the main focus at Bayern Munich is to win the Champions League. That's why they fired Ancelotti, because he wasn't getting the most out of his players. They brought in Jupp Heynckes because their goal was to win the Champions League. They did not do that, and so I would consider this Bayern Munich season to be a failure because they didn't win the Champions League.
Yeah, so would you therefore say the same thing about Real Madrid then, right? That's a team that's built to win the Champions League, and then their manager's coming out and saying, oh, like, Champions League not as important as winning La Liga.
He didn't say. He said it was harder to win.
Harder.
He said La Liga was harder to win. Those are two different things.
Okay, so maybe so case by case basis. Maybe,
I think,
Bundesliga not as hard as Champions
League.
For
a side like Bayern Munich, I don't think it's as difficult as it is maybe for even like a Barcelona or Real Madrid in La Liga. I don't think that
because
is.
Barcelona and Real have each other
exactly,
to always
exactly,
play. Yeah,
exactly.
Because with the Bundesliga, it's Bayern Munich and then like Dortmund, which is definitely not at the same level as Barcelona. Sorry, Nate, they're not. But I think regardless of whether or not Champions League, the league, what's more important, who cares? Real Madrid is taking on Liverpool, a team that isn't even sniffing the Premier League title this year. In the Champions League final, Liverpool took care of, well, didn't necessarily take care of, but like beat Roma sort of by the skin of their teeth, 7-6 on aggregate. And what a draw. This Roma team, I think, showed so much fight throughout all this tournament. They, I think, defied all the odds. And Nate, Liverpool, they're going to the final for the first time since I believe 2005.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, when it was in Istanbul. I know Liverpool fans always like to talk about that. What do you think of the draw? What do you think about Liverpool advancing to a Champions League final?
Well, I think that this is going to be a super exciting final, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit. But it's interesting with Liverpool. This should not have been as close as it was. But we've talked about this before. Liverpool only has one mode, and it's attack, attack, attack. It's going forward. It's going forward. They don't know how to sit back and defend and protect the league. And I'm not a lead, and I'm not saying to park the bus, but I'm saying that there's a balance between let's get everything forward and let's pull everything back. There's a balance there, and I don't think that Liverpool knows how to do that. And I think, after this match, I was watching ESPN FC, and some of the pundits were talking about how it's almost a bit naive of Liverpool to think that all we can do is just attack, 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 and that's how we're going to win, because eventually that's going to come back to bite you.
Yeah, and so as you said, Liverpool definitely expected to win this draw, but Roma, they put up a good fight, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And I think when you look at a side like Roma, a team that no one even expected to get out of their group with Chelsea and Atletico Madrid, I would say that this Roma season has definitely been a success. They're going to qualify for the Champions League next season, finishing in the top 4 of Serie A. No one expected them to even get this far. No one even gave them a chance against Barcelona. They found their way through. So I think that this Roma season has been a success.
Yeah, and so therefore Liverpool, Real Madrid in the final. Who do you got?
I'm gonna go 4-3 Liverpool. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be up and down. Neither team can defend, and it's gonna be a fun Champions League final. I'm gonna take Liverpool. Liverpool in the upset. Yep.
And I believe that Liverpool winning this would be the first English side to win it since Chelsea.
Chelsea in 2012. Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't seen a British side win the Champions League in a long time, and so it's definitely gonna be exciting to watch. That's for sure. And I think we've mentioned it a few times already. This Champions League has been all about attack, attack, attack. I think this semifinal draw between the two matchups that there were, the most goals were scored in this semifinal round in any year of Champions League history, I believe, in terms of just raw firepower just being so prevalent. And this got us thinking, where has defending gone? We've seen guys like Sergio Ramos, like guys who are arguably top 3 defenders in the world, just making schoolyard mistakes sort of out there. And Nate, so just really, really bad defending all around. What do you attribute this to? Is it better attack? Is it just defender? These Sergio Ramos is getting older. Maybe some defenses are not acclimating to new better styles of attacking force. What do you attribute this lack of defending to?
I think a lot of it has to do with tactics, and I think that even defenders are now worrying about getting up an attack. I think Marcelo, I would consider him to be one of the best left backs in the world, but he's all about attack. Marcelo is honestly not a great defender in my opinion, and I think that with this focus on attack, it's certainly fun to watch, but I understand, it can be very frustrating, for fans of teams to see their team make just absolutely schoolboy mistakes, just absolute terrible defending, almost like MLS defending,
Oh my God.
if you will.
Yeah, and so I think in my opinion, when I watch soccer, I love seeing goals. I hate going to a game, and especially like if I went to London and went to that Arsenal game and it was 0-0, I would have been like, are you kidding me? Like, I paid all this money to get on a plane, fly all the way to England just to see a 0-0 draw. Like, I can't stand that. Like, it feels like, honestly, like, I've seldom watched many games that are a great 0-0 draw. So
Yeah,
I love seeing goals. And the fact that this Champions League has had a plethora of goals, I think has just been really fun to watch. But at the same time, as you said, like, the quality at the same time isn't really there to where sort of when I see a goal now when I'm watching Champions League, I'm not having as strong of a visceral reaction as I would otherwise. Because I'm kind of just like, it's just another goal. Like, I know there's going to be like 5 more in this match. So, like, let's just wait and see what happens. Whereas, I think what soccer, what makes it the beautiful game, if you will, is that every single goal is usually so important. So I think for me, it's really important to have a really great balanced attacking force and defensive force so that you're able to, because sometimes exciting defending, getting a last-ditch tackle on a 1v1 can be a really exciting play.
Absolutely.
And so, we're not really seeing any of that. We're seeing Mustafi freaking slipping in the penalty area and then Griezmann going top corner on him. Like, that kind of stuff I hope would change in the near future, and next year hopefully we'll see some people shape up with some better defensive performances. We'll get to Arsenal in a bit, but before we do, Nate, you have some specific comments about your arch nemesis, Robert Lewandowski, that you wanted to share on today's episode.
Yeah, okay, all right. You know what, a few months ago, actually a couple months ago, I got into a debate with one of my friend Steve, and it was during the Juventus-Tottenham game, and it was after Harry Kane scored, and I said, oh, look, there goes the best striker in the world. And then my friend Steve responded to me on Twitter said, Lewandowski says hi. And I'm like, nah, Harry Kane's the best striker in the world. And this is something that I've felt for a while. And I honestly think that Robert Lewandowski is overrated. He is overrated. He has not scored in, I think, 5 straight Champions League matches. And if you're going to be the best striker in the world, then you have got to score in the big money matches. And he hasn't done that. He had numerous chances against Real Madrid that he totally missed. These are chances that I think a lot of strikers would put away. And I don't understand how you can call him the best striker in the world when he's missing relatively easy chances on the biggest stage.
And I think to add some more to this conversation, I think it's important to note that Harry Kane and Robert Lewandowski in their respective leagues are virtually the same in terms of the amount of goals scored that they've had over the past 4 seasons, and that's when Lewandowski moved from Borussia Dortmund to Bayern Munich, and that's when Harry Kane finally planted himself into a firm starting role with Tottenham. And since that point, since the 2014-2015 season, I believe, these two strikers have been virtually, very comparable in terms of all their performances. And we were just talking about, okay, how do we measure importance? How do we measure what is better, winning the Champions League or winning the league? And it looks like in the league they're kind of indistinguishable, but in your eyes it's the Champions League that's what separates them.
Yeah. And I think that we saw against Juventus, Harry Kane scored a couple of big goals for Tottenham, and I know they didn't end up going through. But I don't put that on Harry Kane. It's not his fault that Dybala made a huge, tremendous pass to Higuain, and Higuain put a chance away, that Dybala had an amazing finish. I don't think you can blame Harry Kane for that. But I think that you can not completely blame Lewandowski for the fact they didn't go through against Real Madrid, but I think that he played a huge part in that because he, like I said, they only lost by 1 goal in aggregate. If he puts away 1 or 2 of those chances, they're going through. So I think that you can put a significant of the blame for Bayern Munich not going through on the poor finishing of Lewandowski. And it wasn't just him. I mean, Frank Ribery had a couple of chances that he should have put away. Thomas Muller had a couple of chances he should have put away. But, I mean, Lewandowski, he was very, very poor over both legs versus Real Madrid.
I guess it's my turn to play devil's advocate now. So, it may seem that it might be a little bit hasty to rip Lewandowski after a few draws in the Champions League. As you said, it's been, 5 consecutive matches where he hasn't scored in a Champions League draw, and that's ultimately contributed to them being eliminated from the Champions League. But, who knows if that really does take away from his greatness as a striker, because last I checked, let's look at Harry Kane's trophy cabinet. Is there anything in there, right? And how many Champions League trophies does Robert Lewandowski have in his trophy cabinet? I ask you that.
Does he actually have any? Because Bayern Munich won the Champions League in 2013.
Okay.
And then he moved to Bayern Munich the next year, so I don't even think he's got any. But he does. He has won the league.
He does have silverware,
won the league
regardless.
Okay, I totally get that. But I think that when you look at what Harry Kane and what Tottenham have done in terms of buying players and selling players, they have not done anything, honestly. And compared to all the big clubs in Europe, they probably spend as little as anybody, versus Bayern Munich has spent so much to build this Champions League supergiant that has not won the Champions League. But I think that when you look at what Harry Kane has around him, and he's got some very talented players. He's got Christian Eriksen, Dele Alli. He's got some very talented players around him. You compare that to what Lewandowski has with Thomas Muller and Frank Ribery, James Rodriguez. And then you look at their output, I think Harry Kane does more with less. And I think that Lewandowski is more of a poacher, kind of just sitting in front of goal, putting away chances from inside the box, versus, Harry Kane, his hold-up play is very good. I think he just does more on the ball than Lewandowski does.
Yeah, so future Real Madrid center forward Harry Kane, in your estimation.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that this conversation isn't over until Harry Kane moves to a club like Real Madrid and we see Real Madrid's output. Because that would put him on a similar playing level, if not a higher playing level, than Lewandowski, because you're talking about service, right? I think Real Madrid, has the ultimate wealth of service, if you will, even in the entire soccer world. So I think this conversation is definitely one that's warranted, but definitely one that isn't over. A conversation that is over, however, is my beloved Arsenal. They got knocked out against Atletico Madrid last Thursday on a score of 2-1 on aggregate. That second leg was a tough one. They lost 1-0 in Madrid. And that was following a very disappointing first leg where Atletico were down to 10 men, I think within the first 12 minutes, and Arsenal could only escape that with a draw, especially with how much possession they had, how many shots on goal they had, etc. And it just, I think at the end of the day, in this second leg, Diego Costa was just too much to handle for Arsenal, and at the end of the day, Arsene Wenger, he's not riding off into the sunset, really. He's leaving this season on a low. No European trophy, no trophies at all. They made the final of the Carabao Cup only to get smacked by Manchester City. And, we just kind of got to hope that we're going to be able to beat Huddersfield away on the last game of the season. That's sort of all that's left for myself as well as other Arsenal fans at this point.
So we'll get to my thoughts as a neutral on Arsenal in a minute, and I've got quite a few. But I'm curious, Ben, how are you feeling, and what are your thoughts on this team at this point of the season?
I wouldn't call you a neutral. I'd call you a hater on Arsenal.
I would consider myself to be a neutral.
You would definitely be.
Neutral.
We'll let the listeners decide when you actually get to saying some stuff. But, I'm in terms of how I'm feeling right now, because essentially this game against Atletico Madrid, us losing, that's the end of our season. There's really nothing left to play for. We've already re-qualified for the Europa League next season, and we're just sort of riding out the rest of Arsene Wenger's tenure as Arsenal manager. And I'd like to say that I'm disappointed in losing Atletico Madrid. I thought we could, especially that first leg. And I thought we could do it, and then it was just one defensive slip up at the back, and Griezmann was able to capitalize on it, and then just like that, we're out. But at the end of the day, I'm not surprised, because Atletico Madrid is a higher quality side than Arsenal. As painful as that is for me to even admit, they're a good team, and I think that's pretty clear to see. Diego Costa again was too much to handle, and I think it was just an uphill battle on the whole. It was just something really tough that I would have loved to see us overcome. A lot of people were saying that our draw against AC Milan was an uphill battle, and we smacked them around. So, kind of thinking back to our success in that draw against CSKA in Moscow, being able to get it done in this competition specifically, I had some more hope. Like, hypothetically, if we were to play Atletico, like, let's say they were in the Premier League, I would give us no shot. Like, no shot at all, because our Premier League performances are just dreadful. But in Europa League, I actually gave us a shot. And it was just, I'm not feeling that great right now. I thought for once that the Arsenal defense, even though we had that one slip up in the first leg, they were the strength in this draw against Atletico. And I think even after Koscielny in like the 10th or 12th minute, he left the game after rupturing his Achilles tendon. He's probably going to be out for the World Cup. He had to leave. That, if I was on the field after one of our most captain-like players. Like he's as much as people want to talk about Arsenal not having any team leadership, he's probably the best we got in terms of leadership besides Jack Wilshere. And a guy like him just going off with a horrible injury, I would think, would rattle the cage a lot. But Callum Chambers was able to come in, and he made some really good tackles in order to kind of stop a lot of the Madrid attack moving forward. And but as good as your defense can be, if you're getting no attack as support and the ball is always in the offensive side of the field for Atletico Madrid, a goal is eventually going to slip in, and I believe that's what happened. And again, the attack was really non-existent at all. Xhaka, Wilshere, Ozil, that entire midfield, they were absent. There was Arsenal Fan TV, Sky Sports, everyone was ripping Ozil, like, just for not showing up. He would not take a shot for his life. He had clear open shots on goal where he would just decide to cross, decide to just overcomplicate the situation. And I think Ozil can do that a little too often because he relies on his passing creative prowess, I think, a little too often when, sometimes you just got to let the ball rip. The game's only so long, you only get so many chances, and especially when you leave that second leg with one shot on goal, and that one shot was Granit Xhaka from distance. There was a lot more chances where Arsenal could have actually taken a shot on goal instead of just kind of these baseless crosses into the middle where a defensive unit, like a solid, arguably the best defensive team in Europe, we're talking about horrible defenses, Atletico Madrid still gets it right with how good they are at defending. They're going to block all those crosses every single time. And at the end of the day, I mean, it just comes down to the same problems that Arsenal have always had. It's been the same lack of service, just lack of leadership from a managerial standpoint, which is what we're addressing. But even when Arsene Wenger leaves, the problems are still going to be there if we don't go out this summer and just break the bank, if you will. Like, we need a goalie, we need some defenders, and we need a center defensive mid. And that is a lot of changes. And I don't know if we're going to have the guts to do all that, honestly.
Here's my thing on Arsenal. I think that Arsenal, they're weak-minded. Honestly, I think they're weak-minded, and I think that reflects, your manager reflects onto your players, and I think that's a reflection of Arsene Wenger as a manager. And so I said before, they need somebody who can come in and kind of just straighten things out, get in people's faces, and say, hey, this is how things are going to be now. But with Arsenal, and you talk about Mesut Ozil, not taking a shot, and I think that he was not the only one. You talk about Xhaka and Wilshere and how absent the midfield was. I think that kind of shows that, hey, nobody was really willing to take the initiative and say, you know what, I'm just going to take a shot. And, Xhaka had that one shot, but besides that, like you said, it was a lot of, I don't want to take the shot here, I'm going to pass it, you take the shot. It was nobody taking the initiative, nobody grabbing the game by the throat and say, hey, I'm going to be the one that gets us through. And I think that reflects very poorly on someone like Mesut Ozil, who is this big money player, world-class player in a lot of people's eyes. And I think that, he was absolutely dreadful. He was very poor, and I think that reflects on the entire Arsenal team, just how poor they were over the two legs. And this was a classic Atletico Madrid performance. It was Griezmann to Costa on the goal, and then just sitting back and defending. And I think someone like Diego Simeone, I think, would actually be a good fit at Arsenal because the football isn't always the prettiest, but he can defend, and you will be able to get forward, score goals.
Yeah. Your points there really remind me, I think, of what they were talking about on Arsenal Fan TV recently. And Arsenal didn't have a guy at least playing in Europa League. I think Aubameyang can be that guy that says, hey, give me the ball, I'm going to go score. It's kind of, I think, comparable to basketball. You have a go-to guy in those clutch moments. And that's what separates great teams from good teams, is having a guy that you can go to, like LeBron James, who hits a buzzer beater, bank shot at the end of the game. And we're going to get into that a little bit, but I think it's comparable to these Europa League sides that Arsenal have been putting out there. Mesut Ozil is supposedly supposed to be that guy. Positionally, where he plays in the field, he is pulling the strings, and if he adapted a little bit more of a Kevin De Bruyne mentality and took some more shots, I think that Arsenal could have scraped a goal in this match if Mesut Ozil played better, but he didn't. And now here we are, Arsene Wenger not going to have any kind of trophy, and it's just sort of, waiting and seeing what happens, waiting through the World Cup, because we're probably not going to appoint a manager until afterwards. At least I would think so. And we'll just see what goes from here. But in the meantime,
one last thing I gotta say.
Okay.
I hope Aubameyang enjoys playing in the Europa League next year while Dortmund's playing in the Champions League. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right. So, anyways, we have Atletico Madrid versus Marseille in the final in Lyon. So Marseille fans are pretty stoked to be playing in Lyon Stadium in the final of the Europa League, while Lyon are just, somewhere. I don't even know where they are. And Marseille, therefore, in the other draw, they were able to hold off a resilient not RB Leipzig, it was RB Salzburg, who came back from 2 goals down to push it to extra time, but then Marseille got that extra time goal to send them to the Europa League final. And these were probably 2 of the best teams in this whole competition that ended up in the final of this competition, if I'm being totally honest. And Nate, I just want to know, will you be watching this match, A? And B, who do you have if you will be watching?
Well, I'm going to go with Atletico. I won't be watching because, I've got finals to study for and I'm a responsible student, unlike, other people who are graduating. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I'm going to go with Atletico. I think they're a more talented side.
All right. Well, I probably will also... Let's go Marseille. Let's do it.
All
Let's
right,
just spice it up a little bit. I think that Dimitri Payet offers a lot more attacking options than Atletico have faced in this competition so far, and it might throw them off guard a little bit. And guys like Payet, guys like Florian Thauvin, guys like Maxime Lopez, who's a really young midfielder for Marseille. They have some firepower that I think will be pretty surprising, and it's in France. I'd say that there's probably going to be a lot more Marseille fans there than Atletico fans, and the place is going to be rocking. So let's just see if Marseille can get it done. I hope they do. I think it would mean more to that club if Marseille were able to win the Europa League versus Atletico Madrid. I think we could at least agree on that much. So yeah, a lot happened in the past couple weeks of soccer, and from this point moving forward, it's sort of finishing up the different leagues. Each domestic league champion in the biggest leagues, however, has already been crowned. We have the Champions League final to look forward to. We have Real Madrid, Liverpool, and
we also have a World Cup coming up this summer.
Yep, the United States will still not be in.
That's a pretty big deal. Yeah.
Oh man,
that's true. Yes.
So
you just had to rip off that Band-Aid, didn't you?
We got to do it. 4 more years.
2022.
2022.
Can't wait. Oh my gosh.
We got the Gold Cup to look forward to.
That's true. We do have the Gold Cup.
Gold Cup, because we were not invited to the Copa America.
We were not invited to the Copa America. No.
Yep. So that's how lowly they think of us. They invited Japan instead to the Copa America. Yeah. Like what? Anyways. So when we come back, we actually have our first guest in a very long time joining us on the show. He's a man by the name of Olin Carter III. He is a basketball player at the University of San Diego, and many would say that he is our best player. So we're really excited to have him on the show. So he will be joining us when we come back. So stay tuned, everyone.
Like what you're hearing? Well, I've got news for you. You no longer have to wait a whole week to hear from your favorite sports personalities. Hi, I'm Nate Wiggins, and Ben Friedel and I have got you covered. Give our show, The Unathletic, a sports podcast, a listen. We release new episodes every Monday and are committed to bringing you the best content. That's right, the very best content.